Good evening and welcome to the Coeur d'Alene City Council meeting for May 16th of 2023. We'll call this meeting to order, tap, tap, and note that all council are present. And we have no invocation scheduled for tonight, so we'll move on to our Pledge of Allegiance, and we'll ask Dan Buchan to lead us, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ready? Begin. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It's my second Pledge of Allegiance today.
Me too.
Well, get it right.
Third.
I'm trying. Are there any amendments to the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to announcements from council. Woody?
Well, I just wanted to let everybody know that Dwaynium started planting at the resort today. It's a big deal. It's going to be beautiful down there, and we've all enjoyed that over the years.
Thank you. Okay, I would ask for confirmation of Mick Armand to the Ignite Coeur d'Alene Board.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion to second. Discussion? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'm going to oppose this one for the same reason I give when I typically oppose things, which is that there are 55,000 people in the city, and Mr. Armand has already served on the Ignite board formally. Also, as I wrote you in an email, I would like to see someone on the Ignite board who represents the affordable housing community, and I think that would have been a better choice. And that's just my opinion, and I'm also going to say, and I know you don't like when I say this, but they do plant a lot of high-end homes, and those aren't really for people who live here, they're for people who move here. And I think having a little more balance on their board with someone who may be an advocate for affordable housing, which is something they could do, would be beneficial to the city. This is the only control I have as a councilman over the Urban Renewal Agency, so I will be opposing your nomination. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Dan and I aren't always in sync here. I would just like to say I spent a lot of years working with Mick Armand on the NIC board. Mick is really an expert financially, and he brings a lot to the Urban Renewal Board, so I will be supporting him.
I would add, sure, just that I will support the nomination, worked with Mick some too, but I also really, Dan's comments resonate, and I think it's something, at least in my time on the urban renewal, there seems like it turns over with, some opportunity, and so I think that's, with Amy and I both, really kind of a targeted thing to, when that comes up, really, hopefully, try to take a mindful approach on that, so.
Thank you.
And I'll just add, since we're having good discussion about it, I think the oral history and the financial background Mick brings to the table are really important. But I also know that there are folks in the community who are still working on the local worker housing, affordable housing issues, and have deep desire and, in fact, intents and plans to connect more closely with urban renewal agencies throughout the county. So hopefully that gets continually addressed.
Well, and I would say that I hope that our urban renewal is moving out of the housing area and just focused on development of our business, our commercial and industrial community. We don't need a reading, so all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
The motion carries. Thank you. Consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move to approve consent calendar as presented.
Second.
We have motion and second. No discussion. Will the clerk take the roll, please?
McEvers,
Yes.
Gookin,
Yep.
English,
Yes.
Wood,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Miller.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Public comments. We have several people wishing to speak tonight. Again, I need to reiterate that if you have a mustache and sunglasses and tie, The first one is Bill Regan. Welcome, Bill.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Bill Regan, 2491 East Hanley, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Coeur Downtown Association. And I wanted to, first of all, thank you for your support of the association and let you know that we have had a great relationship working with the city, the different departments of the city in putting a plan together for our events. And tonight before you, we're going to talk about the Coeur d'Alene event, which we feel is just a great event for the community. Today I went to the Jobs Plus luncheon that they had, and it was interesting. They had a kind of an expert there on economic development. And one of the items that really resonated with me was he said, creating connectivity in our community is critical. And I think this is really an event that a lot of people throughout the community get excited about, and that's just evidenced by the number of cars that come down and participate in the cruise, and number of people that walk through the streets and see all the cars that are on display down there. It's a great event, and I just want to ask for your support of the agreement tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Justin O'Connell.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor, Your Highness. Council, good evening. Agent J, Central Planning. Today, I believe we have zoning workshop on the calendar. Is that true? I believe that's true. And I don't know about you, but boy, am I excited. Let's get started. This is an image of our city in its natural state. I know, it's horrifying. Here, to cleanse your palate, this is the city with the zoning overlaid. Much better. Zoning is the foundation of civilization. Just look at Mars. No zoning, no civilization. In the 1920s, central planning really started tightening zoning regimes, establishing commercial, industrial, and residential zones under the guise of ending public nuisances, which could have probably mostly been done via ordinances and form-based codes. Anyway, though, we studied our maps and dioramas very carefully and sliced up wide swaths of virtually every city into separate, lonely zones. I'd like to take this opportunity to have a moment of silence for all the unsprung social interactions that would have otherwise happened were it not for our zones. Thank you. The truth is, whether or not we like it, what changes life for the better in the United States is the private sector. Ugh. After everything we've thrown at it, capitalism is still going strong. And the market is actually the only thing that can build all the different types of needed housing we need. I mean apartments. Excuse me, apartments. Whew, rookie mistake. Apartments. We need apartments. Make sure the studies say we only need apartments. To paraphrase New York Times journalist Connor Doherty, you don't have to be a, quote, hardcore libertarian to see the role of the market in solving the problem here. So what do we say if someone comes in and points all this out about the market? Any ideas? We point out the successes of zoning. For instance, we zoned downtown Los Angeles as mostly commercial, and in doing so, we created the cheapest housing on the planet, Skid Row. The market would have never done that. It does SROs, single resident occupancies, but they're ugly, so we got rid of them. And that's the genius of central planning. Trust the process, council. We're going to need more zones. We're already talking about it in our regional housing group meeting, more zones. Specifically, we need zones overlaid on zones. Zones upon zones upon zones, even though it's been tried everywhere else. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Tom Barub. Welcome,
Thank
sir.
you, Mr. Mayor, council members, Tom Berube, 3616 North Sherwood Drive. What I want to talk about tonight is going to take more than 3 minutes, so I'll be back. I, my neighbors, and the citizens of Coeur d'Alene want to know why this council gave the Kootenai County Land Company a free ride in regards to Coeur. You require nothing of them. Since today is levy voting day, I thought tonight's topic should be on the two proposed schools. First, this council failed in your duties to bargain with the developer to build the schools and gift them to the city. In fact, when Councilmember Gookin posed the question, the city board official stated it was illegal to do so, and yet none of you called BS on him. Is Coeur d'Alene the first city in the United States that can't accept gifts? We all know that's not true. And even if it was, you could have bargained with them to sell the schools to the city for $1. But then again, the council sat there silent and screwed the taxpayer over, knowing that the only way these schools are going to get built is four more levies in the tune of $50 million plus. Good job, thank you. And why would this council agree to schools that are on the edge of town? In fact, they wouldn't even be in town if it wasn't for the annexation. Their location makes no sense to serve the kids in Coeur d'Alene, unless, of course, they don't intend to honor their non-legally binding statement that they would not come back later to annex the remaining 600 acres west of Hutter. How naive are all of you? With schools on the edge of town, students will have to commute east to west and back. Again, this council failed to do their jobs and require the developer to create new road options to handle this increased traffic. Connecting to our neighborhoods does nothing to solve the gridlock that will occur on Atlas. It is laughable when this council voted for the connectors into our neighborhoods in the name of safety and did not require any on or off ramp to I-90 at Hutter or the widening of Atlas. You don't seem to grasp what 5,000, 10,000, or the latest estimate of 16,000 vehicles on a two-lane road means. Again, this council failed the citizens of CDA and gave the developer a blank check. Let's assume the lowest estimate of 5,000 cars and round it up to 5,280 to keep the math easy for this group. Assuming the average length of vehicle in CDA is 18 feet, that means each and every day, if you put that line of cars bumper to bumper to bumper on the I-90, starting at Atlas, it would reach all the way into the state of Washington. That is what the council did to the citizens of all of Coeur d'Alene, not just our neighborhoods. And yet, absolutely no requirements of the developer. This leaves the city to handle the problem. Stellar job. Thank you.
Emily Boyd?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Emily Boyd, and I'm the Coeur d'Alene Downtown Association's Executive Director. This evening, I would like to share the DTA's perspective on the Coeur d'Alene MOU that is before you tonight. I was reading through some past meeting minutes from 1996 recently on the contract with the Business Improvement District and Downtown Association with the City of Coeur d'Alene. And one of the recurring themes amongst those minutes were how was the DTA and the city going to create downtown to be a vibrant place for the community to live, work, and play? How are they going to create a sense of place for the community and be an exciting destination? Well, that's kind of baffling to think about today as we sit here and look out at a beautiful park filled with people and surrounded by hundreds of thriving businesses that were once vacant spaces. And that is largely, there's many factors that play into it, but one of the large ones is that we've created downtown to be a vibrant destination through events and community gatherings. And events create a sense of place for the community, and they foster a healthy economic environment for businesses, which helps them grow with their business, and it helps reduce vacancy rates and increases rents, which in turn sparks investments and increases property values, which translates to increased tax revenues. So I don't want to stand here today and say we made it, but we have certainly reached a destination that our past leaders wanted us to achieve, and now it's our job to sustain and strengthen that. And I think we can do that through our great partnership with the DTA and the City of Coeur d'Alene, and that's reflected in this MOU tonight with Coeur d'Alene. We certainly don't ignore the fact that there are a lot of expenses and work that come out of the city departments, and I certainly enjoy working with your staff, and they put a lot of work into these events. And over the course of the 3 years, DTA has tried to assume some of the additional expenses through taking on more traffic control and security, and assuming some of the labor-intensive tasks, and hopefully to be better partners. So I would encourage you to support the MOU as proposed tonight, and believe that it is a very equal share of responsibilities and costs between the DTA and city, and is very beneficial for the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Benjamin Drake?
Hello, Mayor and City Council. Benjamin Drake. I live at 715 East Foster Avenue. I just wanted to take this opportunity to comment as a citizen and a business owner in downtown Coeur d'Alene. We're just coming off of our slower season. We're getting ready to ramp up for our busy summer. And I really want to thank our downtown association for planning events year-round, which just always seem to be our busiest days at our establishments. We're very fortunate to have such a thriving and vibrant downtown, and due to this, at our business, we're just really fortunate that we're able to keep our same employees year-round, which is very rare in a resort city. The impact of these events that they plan reverberate through our community by providing jobs, attracting new commerce to our area. We're actually just a couple weeks away from opening up another business in downtown Coeur d'Alene. And, it also, these events introduce so many new people to our businesses downtown that we normally wouldn't see. As a citizen, I look forward to these events as it's definitely an opportunity for me to get out with my family and enjoy what our city offers. And while it might not always be good, my family from out of town also seems to visit during these events, particularly Coeur d'Alene and Street Fair, Oktoberfest, but we're just so fortunate for what we have here. I've been downtown now for 16 years, and just seeing where it was when I first got here to where it is now, and there's a calendar of events the Downtown Association has. All the things they've added has just really grown our area, and I think it's amazing. I really appreciate everything that Emily and the Downtown Association does for our community. It's no easy task, yet they make it look so effortless. I really appreciate our council and our city for supporting them as they work tirelessly to bring these events and so many new customers to our businesses. Emily mentioned that they've been taking on some of the burden of, the cost, trying to help, all the costs associated with that, try and help. They even approach us as volunteers and ask us to get training and certification to become traffic control handlers too. So, they're really working hard to try and make sure that, they're taking care of us and take care of our city. So I really hope you guys support them and with this Coeur d'Alene and all the other stuff they do in the future. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, moving on, we have a couple of resolutions from our water department. Kyle?
Good evening, council. Thanks for having me. Some of these pictures you may have seen before, so I apologize. I'm here this evening to get approval to purchase replacement meter parts for our MCOP program. So with our MCOP program, that's our meter change-out program, the city water department changes around 2,000 meters per year, plus minus on a maintenance schedule. It's over a 10-year period, so each year as the city grows, that number grows as well. What we've done when we purchased the meter test bench is last year we go through and we pull the meters out, we put new meters in, we run them through our test bench, and we find out what parts and materials we need to replace and fix those to put them back in this year. After this winter, we've gone through and we've come up with a variety of parts and materials to rebuild these meters at a lesser rate than buying a new meter. So this is the meter test bench. These are the typical size meters that we utilize in the city that are the most common, 3/4 up to 2 inch. 1 inch is pretty common as well. A lot of our commercial entities use larger meters. I don't have a picture of those. They're a compound meter that reads high and low flows. We do have a few replacement meters for those throughout the city. Those are a little bit harder to rebuild, so we usually purchase new meters in the aspect, and we don't have ones to test and rebuild. As we get a stock throughout the years, we'll continue to save those and rebuild them as we can and as the parts are available. This is the Orion ME radio read head. We're slowly upgrading those as technology continues to grow and improve. So we can existingly use the Orion ME radio read heads. It's got a variety of technology within the head that we can communicate with our customers with. They catalog data use for how much water they're using, how often they're using it, if they're using it in a 24-hour period. This helps us communicate with our customers for any issues that they might have. If there's a leak on their system, per se, we can get a notification on that meter when we read, say, hey, your meter's been running for 24/7 at a half gallon a minute. You may have a leak. You might want to check these several items and see if you can get those repaired. So with the MCOP program, we upgrade and replace all our meters throughout a 10-year period, and I'm here requesting approval for the purchase of a variety of parts and materials for $281,230.70. And I will stand for any questions.
Woody?
Great. I love how you guys are trying to fix stuff and keep it going. Kyle, I have a question. When you do the repair on a meter, what kind of a lifespan does that run?
Sure, so it really depends on the wear and tear on the meter. Mostly it's the internal components of the meter. The brass exterior that you could see around the outside is usually pretty good for long terms. There's internal chambers when you could pull the bolts or the bottom half of those meters out, and we could put new chambers in that wear out. They have magnets in them, and they actually have physical parts that move or a rotating disc that measures a specific amount of meter. Newer meters that they're coming out with, and eventually we'll probably start replacing, go into that too at some point in time, there's no moving parts inside. They use a sonar and bounce back and forth, and then can measure the amount of water that goes through. The technology is getting better on a daily basis. They're more efficient. At this point, this is the type of meter we use. We're going to continue to move and utilize these until it's no longer feasible or the cost effectiveness is no longer there.
What's a new meter run? What's it cost?
So a typical 3/4 inch meter, cost inflation has gone crazy, so it's a little bit hard to, on a daily basis, to keep up with them. But right now, the meter on your left with the radio read head's about $175 to $185. And it depends on if you buy in bulk, which we try to do with this process, it gets the dollar value down. If you were a regular customer off the street, you'd probably be paying closer to $200, maybe more. The larger meters, they just go up. You get into the compound, they're several $100s.
Thank you.
You
Appreciate
betcha.
it.
Okay. Council has a motion before them.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move to approve Resolution 23031, approving the purchase contract for Badger Meter Incorporated for the MCOP water meters, register and endpoints.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion on the motion. We certainly appreciate your efforts to be as efficient and cost-wise as you can.
Thank you.
Will the clerk take the roll, please?
Gookin,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Wood,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Miller,
Aye.
McEvers.
Yes.
Okay, secondly, we have a grant from Department of Environmental Quality. Go ahead, Kyle.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me again. We currently have in the budget to do security systems at several of our well sites and at our tank sites throughout the city. A lot of our sites are fairly remote, so we don't have internet access to those sites. So we're working on putting security cameras up, new card locks on the doors so we get better track access, egress and access to those sites with our contractors, also with anybody that might have any malice involved. With this grant, this can help us expand that security system. The source water grant is for security within the building and specifically for the protection of the wellhead. So the grant does a variety of things throughout the water systems that you can apply for. Specifically, what I applied for in this is for internal protection for camera security inside the well houses, which will help us in multiple areas. One, it's not so much as just security in the building if somebody accesses the building, because we'll, as we implement our security system, we'll be notified. But we can also monitor the atmosphere inside the building and if there's any issues. So if a well house, if we have an alarm go off with a breaker that flips and it goes down, it sends an alarm out to our staff. At the same time, our staff can look in the building to see if there's any issues. We could see if there's any fires. We could see if there's any smoke. There's a variety of things that we can watch for with those security cameras. So specifically, the grant is to watch the internal parts of the building for the wellhead protection. We thought this would go good with our existing security system to expand internal protection of the wellhead. So that's what I'm here to approve, is that $24,000 grant from DEQ for the wellhead protection. I'll stand for any questions.
Dan?
I think you mentioned on some of these remote sites don't have internet access, so how would does the camera communicate in real time, and how do you get the signal then?
Sure. So what it's going to do is it's going to have an internal cellular card that we can access, and it'll have an on-site storage system for a minimum of 14 days, and that's with the new legislation to stockpile material for a certain amount of time for government entities. So we'll have that available, and it'll store it for 14 days, and then we can access it. The dollar value for the cell cards is very, very minimal. It starts to add up if you're watching it on a daily basis and look at it, which we won't need to do. We'll only access them if we have an issue or maybe a weekly basis just to check the status of those. So it's got a cell card in it, so we can remote access from just about anywhere.
Christie?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Kyle, first of all, very good on you to apply for this grant. We know that that's one of our most vulnerable things is our water source, which we hope we are never dealing with an attack in that way. My question is, most of our cameras in the city, the police department does have access to. Do you plan to make access to the police department?
So I know that the police department has requested access to any available security system. Everything's a closed circuit, so it will be available to them if there's any issue. And we always work very closely with the police department if there's any kind of break-ins to our facilities in the past or any kind of graffiti that's happened. We take pictures, we send to the police department for documentation. We work very well with them.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So Kyle, I don't know if you can answer this or not, but in the contract with the DEQ,
Yes.
there's a section there about minority-owned businesses and women-owned businesses and reporting. What is that and why does that work, or how does that work?
For businesses and minorities?
Yeah, you're supposed to do an annual report about, I guess, whether you're a minority-owned business. Does that
question.
impact us at all, or is that just boilerplate in here?
I would believe that's a boilerplate. There's a lot involved in that. I know we had to really scrutinize some things to see where this would fit within our system to apply for the grant.
Yeah.
I don't know if Randy could answer that. I apologize.
Actually, I'm sure that is boilerplate, and if it were a much larger contract, then they would be asking you to see if you couldn't find minority-owned businesses to compete for that contract.
Gotcha.
Go ahead, so we're done?
I'm sure that the ITD would be asking for reports if we were required to do that.
The DEQ here.
DEQ.
EQ,
So we
state
still have to submit the
relatively-
report even though it doesn't apply to us?
That's probably true, yes.
Okay, and would it be like, does not apply?
Otherwise, they wouldn't keep giving us grants.
So I would say I was in communication, and I believe his name is Curtis at Boise with DEQ. One thing that we're required to report to them, and I went over in detail, is they want proof of what it's protecting and that it's following the rules for the security grant, specifically the wellhead protection. They want to see pictures before and after of the cameras that are facing the wellhead and any kind of components that are protecting the wellhead only. So it can't be utilized for external. None of the other items that were in the contract, I would say on the boilerplate, were ever discussed with me from what was required besides the receipts and the before and after pictures.
Okay.
So that's all that they asked of me to provide once approved and moving forward.
Okay, well, I assume we'll get in trouble if we don't file a report. So I think you told Councilman English that the retention time for the video is 14 days?
It's a minimum of 14 days by law, yeah. So
By
we
law.
could set it up longer than that if we need to.
And the cost of storage is included in the,
Yes, there's no cost of storage. It's an internal on-site recording system.
will that cost money?
Well, it's just initial cost, so it's not an ongoing cost.
Okay.
So that'll be part of the purchase product with the camera and the recording machinery that's on site. And that'll also go with our security system as well. So it's all recorded on site. The only part where it's an ongoing cost would be for the cellular system. And it's a very minimal cost for the site. I think it's like $1 a month. But it's, if you utilize it like on a daily basis, you have so many gigabytes you're allowed to use. And if you go above that, then it starts to cost more. So if we have to pull something remotely, that's where the dollar goes up. But I can go there and pull with a laptop as much as I want, and there's no extended cost.
So it's just a camera, it's not really sensing any movement or anything?
It can,
Oh,
yes.
it can?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
The cameras are set up with an internal motion camera. You can go as far as having night vision and zoom in and be able to remote turn them. I don't think we're going to go that far. It'll just have a broad range to be able to cover the whole room with the internal cameras.
So if someone breaks in, for example?
Yes, sir.
You'll get
We
an
could be
alert.
notified.
Okay, cool, thank
Yep.
you.
Okay. Someone want to make a motion?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 23032, approving the acceptance of the source water protection grant from the Idaho Department of Environmental Quality.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, will the clerk take the roll, please?
English,
Yes.
Wood,
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
Miller,
Aye.
McEvers.
Yes.
Gookin.
Yep.
Thank you, Kyle. Welcome, Renata.
Thank
You
you.
want to talk about destruction?
Cool.
Yes, I like to destroy things. We have a process outlined under our Public Records Retention Manual that was approved back in 2016. So these documents I'm bringing forward today meet the outline in that policy. Idaho code also sets out whether the items are permanent, semi-permanent, and temporary, and they have set timelines as to the minimum amount of time you need to retain those records. So I'll just go over really quickly. The police department is requesting some graffiti photos from 1993 to be destroyed. That was actually a semi-permanent record that only needed to be required for 5 years. So it has surpassed its useful life. The Municipal Services Department is bringing forward an item from Streets and Engineering for pre-trip inspection forms, and those were temporary records only needing to be kept for 2 years. We're also looking to destroy city-wide emails prior to 2017, including the backup tapes and which is a temporary record only being required to keep for 2 years. We are recommending a 5-year retention on that, just to make some of those email hoarders happy. Additionally, we're looking to destroy some of the mayor and administration files that have been kept electronically over the years. Those are items anywhere from coordinating travel, presentation materials, monthly activity reports, and old committee agendas that are no longer required. And those are all temporary files as well. The Finance Department has supplied us with a list of records as well that range from temporary to semi-permanent. Their list is pretty long, so I won't bore you with all those details. The Legal Prosecutor's Office is switching to a new case management software. So in transitioning to that, it made sense to destroy some of those old electronic records that are no longer needed as well. So that is the list I currently have before you today, and I stand for questions.
Questions? Dan?
Just a curious one. So how do you destroy the records? What process? Do you shred them?
It depends on if there's personnel data involved, things like that. So if they are records that have no HIPAA, we can just throw them in the recycle bin. Some of the legal documents might have to be shredded. Obviously, the electronic records are just deleted.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, you have a motion before you.
Do we?
Yes, you do.
A request to make a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 23-033, approving the destruction of records in accordance with the city's records retention schedule from the police, streets, and engineering, municipal services, including mayor and administration files, and finance departments.
Second.
Now we have a motion.
I have a motion and a second. Further discussion?
I remember when we used to burn that stuff. No more burning, huh?
Well, if there was a fire training, maybe that would be an opportunity. We don't do those as often as we used to either.
I'm just thinking there's some 35-year-old out there just so excited that those vandalism photos are gone now.
Never told anyone.
Will the clerk take the rule, please?
Wood,
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
Miller,
Aye.
McEvers.
Yes.
Gookin.
Yep.
English.
Yes.
And we had some testimony earlier tonight on the Coeur d'Alene, and Renata's here to share that issue.
Okay. So back in July of 2022, the council had some discussion on special events, and one of the items was to start looking at going into agreements with some of the event sponsors for those larger events. And while Coeur d'Alene doesn't seem like a larger event, it really does because of the traffic control involved, and it's a 2-day event. So this is one of the first agreements we're bringing forward to you, to kind of see how you like the wording, how we've divided up the duties. Last year's Coeur d'Alene event was a different route. It was a little more difficult for public safety and streets and engineering. So we were able to negotiate a new route that works better for staffing. We've been able to add in a limit to the number of entries. That also makes the event stay at a certain size, so we know it's not growing in size, which causes a longer parade route. So it works better for streets and engineering and public safety. And we've also were able to break out the roles and responsibility of the events so that there aren't any questions the day of the event. Streets and Engineering has created the traffic safety plan. This is a plan we hope to just keep reusing over the years and keep the route the same. So it'll be kind of to simplify things as we move forward over the years. We hope that in the future we'll kind of have a master agreement with all these events after we work through it this year and get the input from council on how you like the way that it was set up. So for the financial analysis, we did just utilize the fee schedule that was previously adopted by resolution. Includes $1,050 for fee and $1,000 security deposit. There were just some reminder of some of the legal restrictions in event costs. It means that the fee must be reasonably related to the actual cost of the event and cannot be higher than the actual cost to the city, which this meets. There are additional costs to other city departments as well as the Downtown Association. In the staff report, the Downtown Association provided their information, which is about $14,950 in expenses. Then if you put a value to all the volunteers that they have manning those intersections is another $6,355. And then for the city of Coeur d'Alene, we have expenses from our police, fire, and streets and engineering department. Police is the larger impact, where they had provided 117 hours of costs for existing employees that they reassigned to this event for a value of $4,875. And then for the day of the event, the total overtime costs are $14,197. The fire department really doesn't get too much involved in the Coeur d'Alene event, just reacting to medical emergencies maybe as needed, but their cost is pretty minimal for tent inspections. Streets and Engineering has about 24 hours of comp time and overtime combined for a value of $2,153. So again, our intent really was to just try and spread the duties a little more evenly between the two parties, and that is what we believe we've brought forward to you today. So Emily is here to answer questions for the downtown portion, and I stand for any questions you may have.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Renata, at the meeting we had last week, we asked you to check in to see what Bloomsday is, what their permit fee is. Did you hear anything back?
No, I have not had time to
Yeah.
do those comparisons yet.
I called up Spokane and they never got back to me either, so I'm never going to live there.
Not never, right?
Not never. So anyway, what I wanted to know and hear more from Emily, if it's okay with you, Mr. Mayor, is really kind of if we have a handle on what the financial impact is regarding the downtown businesses. I mean, because we have this figure here for what it's costing our police and fire, but I also want to know, what are we getting out of this? I mean, what is the financial benefits to the businesses downtown? How does it impact them? Do we have a figure on that?
We actually were talking today about doing an economic impact study on this because we don't have the exact numbers to provide you with. We have the testimony from businesses that we get feedback, this is the best day ever. We, utilize these funds to get through the slow season. And that is kind of the context we have. And then kind of going back to my public comment in the wide picture of perspective of things, the funds that the city is putting into this it's a ripple effect into a larger economic impact for creating a sustainable downtown community. So I would say that the impact is a thriving downtown, thriving businesses, and the community we have now.
Well, I just want to see on the event itself, so I want to make sure, so if we're putting out $21,000 worth of public services, are the businesses going to be generating, to make it worth the cost to the taxpayer, for that one day? Is that are things booming? Ben, are things booming? They are. So, okay, so that's what I really want to hear.
Yes,
It's not
these
a
events,
negative thing.
Yes, so these events mean a lot to the businesses, especially restaurants. I mean, we're a seasonal town, and these big events are some of their highest days of the year, and they really help sustain them throughout that shoulder season. So we can certainly look at doing an economic impact study this year to be able to provide you with actual numbers, but from a relational standpoint with our businesses, what we get told is that these events really help them thrive.
I'd love to see the data on that, just because it helps me to justify the cost. So
Absolutely.
if I can have that, then that's great. Thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes. Oops.
Sorry, I don't know which way we're going.
I heard you and saw your hand go.
Just a follow-up question to that. Since you have captured who the entrants are in all these car owners and participants, have you ever done an exit survey to find out how long they stayed in town, what they spent, what their fees were? It's kind of a follow-up to Dan's question. I wondered if that was ever in the
Yeah, that's kind of the reverse way to look at it. That's a good question. Thank you. The average night stay is 2 nights. The hotels regionally, and Bill can speak to this, are booked out years in advance, actually, for each year, because we're always Father's Day weekend. We do need to ask the participants about their average spend and things like that.
How many are from out of the area that are bringing dollars here?
So
would be
I would say Friday night is the largest, like the area in Kootenai County really comes out. Saturday is going to be more tourist people, and the vehicles that are participating are largely from out of the area. So they're going to be the people from outside our economy that are giving us the boost. Friday is largely our community coming out and enjoying the event.
Christie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, Emily, I'm a local, so I remember the downtown in the 80s and everything. Here we are in 2023, and everything that people have worked for all these years is paying off to our area businesses. Everything we do here as a council is always a value judgment of what impact is there in the community. Is it positive, and should we expend these funds? I happen to believe that it's the right way to go to support our community. And Renata, I'm very happy about the change in the route. Our car's been towed twice because it overheats. They're old. So, but I think it's a great event, and I do appreciate the conversation we had the other day about the cost of the city and what are ways that maybe creatively we could try to cover some of that. Certainly not this year. It's way too late to spring something on anyone. But in the future, maybe there could be some conversations like we had the other day about a security fee, not just for this event, for all the events, where maybe we can recoup some of the costs for the police department. But again, not to the point where it would put people out of business.
Right.
We want this to happen here, so.
Yes, and I took your comments back to our events coordinator, Chloe, as well, and we were kind of bouncing things off and seeing how we can take and continue our partnership as the years go on. And so our first step is we're working with the Streets and Engineering Department and Todd to do some traffic control of our volunteers to help alleviate some of that expense from PD and the Streets Department. So, and that also helps us too. So that's kind of our venture this year, but we'll continue to take your suggestions and move forward.
Thanks, Emily. Appreciate it.
Woody?
Well, I was just, when we were talking about the numbers last week, it seemed $21,000 or something, and been pondering it for a while, and I just did the math for you, and you guys invest about $21,000. So it's almost, it feels like it's real close to even. It's a share, it's a community, all the things you say about getting people together. It seems economically you are putting in as much as we are. And I think that's a good place to kind of maybe move forward, as Christy said, to kind of look down the road. And, you guys still have to be, I guess not, the word isn't profitable, but you have to be able to take care of yourselves too,
Yes.
So I appreciate it's come a long way, and the new what do you call it, the route looks interesting.
Thank you.
Further questions? I do have one problem with this. I've enjoyed it for years, but I used to be able to walk through and say, well, those are the cars my dad had, my older brothers. Now they're the cars that I had.
Well, and I just had one impression, is that when you talk about, starting in the early 80s, and if I do the math and subtract 83 from 2023, that's 50 years ago.
What, don't be looking at me when you say that.
I don't know what it means, but
It means, it
That's why we
means
have
I'm old.
finance people.
Okay.
Math.
I can say real quick, because I was over here looking at numbers.
I'm sorry. I did.
Just saying.
oh, excited.
I'm a numbers guy, so I like looking at stuff like that, but just that weekend, we see about a 65 to 75% increase in sales, just for Coeur d'Alene, for our little pub, which is pretty amazing. And not only that, but you have Saturday, well, Friday and Saturday are busy. Sunday is insane. Monday is almost triple what we normally do on a Monday, because people are still hanging around town for that. So I'm all for it. It definitely helps out my business a ton, so, yeah, there you go.
Actually, Ben, those are the kind of numbers that we need, and I think that in the future, if we can get the collated vision of all that, that would really be helpful for the
I agree, and I was
council.
sharing with the Downtown Association that April, our busiest day of the entire month was the wine affair, what's it called? Wine extravaganza, so many different names.
Yeah.
We didn't even participate in that. We just want people to buy our wine. But just seeing that it's our busiest day, every event they seem to plan is just, we know to just keep our business, put our whole staff on, and they make all the money, so it's good.
Thank you, Ben. You have a proposed motion before you.
I'll do that, Mr. Mayor. I motion to approve resolution number 23034, approving an agreement with the Downtown Association for the Coeur d'Alene event.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on Resolution 23034. Will the clerk take the roll, please?
Evans,
Yes.
Miller,
Aye.
McEvers,
Yes.
Guggen,
Yes.
English,
yes.
Wood,
Yes.
Okay, now we get into a couple of construction projects. And our Streets and Engineering Director, Todd Fisher, is here. Todd?
Good
The
evening,
floor is
Mr.
yours.
Mayor and council members. Just a quick update to what Emily was talking, because a couple of you have asked. We have scheduled a date to do a training to train traffic control flaggers for these events with the resort and the Downtown Association. Wednesday, the 24th, will be our first training. We will have some city staff involved in that, but that will be the first round. I believe we're doing about 15 between the resort and DTA, so for the first go, I think that's great, so just to update you on that.
Todd, I just appreciate you bringing that up. I was going to bring that up, but I think that for folks who don't understand what that means is that this volunteer becomes certified in traffic control operations, but that isn't just for this event. That's a certification that person takes with them as a value where they could get involved in other events and be able to, take advantage of that training. So I think that's a great creative way to partner and make it a win-win and a win for the volunteer too. So I really appreciate you working with them on that.
To follow up on that, it's a 3-year certification, and so then they just would retake the course. And there's other avenues, but, so yeah, we're excited to partner with them on that, so. I'm excited to bring this forward tonight. I have 2 parts to this presentation. The first is a change order to a project that we already have. The second would be to show you, several have asked what we're going to do this year with the budget dollars remaining, and we have big plans for Ramsey Road. So I'm excited to show you both. I'll start with the first part, and then we'll move on. So this is our pavement improvement projects for the 23 season. The first thing I'd like to bring forward is approval of change order number 1 to our chip seal bid that we received earlier this spring. The second part will be over Ramsey Road. Change order 1 is for preparation to the project that was already put out to bid. So Councilmember Gookin has asked before, one of his concerns is, if we're doing some of this work, what should we be doing? With our total number that came in for the chip seal project this year of $639,000, that left some money left for us to spend. We have a lot of roads we want to repair this year, so staff decided it would be best to put out to bid to do these repairs in the area that the chip seal is already happening. So this change order is for the project that we already had out to bid. They're just going to do the preparation, and as soon as they put the new asphalt down, they're going to cover it with chip seal. Last time we came forward, I don't think we had these exhibits, so we are going to, from Prairie Avenue, heading south from edge, curb to curb. Some of the area doesn't have curb, but the entire width of the road, we are going to mill it 2 inches just past Newbrook and put a new asphalt mat over that. Then we will turn into Newbrook Drive, and we will mill that. This section we have to mill the entire depth because we've done some research. There's areas of that mat that are only 1.5 inches thick. And water has gotten into the subgrade, and so we have to do some repairs to our drainage and stuff. Poe has given us this price, so they would be contracting the milling, and then they would put the asphalt down, and they're going to do all of Newbrook through that roundabout with the chip seal project. Second area that we've asked in this change order is the roundabout at Coeur. That gets a lot of traffic every day of the week, and it's failing. The boundaries here you can see, this is where we stopped the chip seal project years ago. Same over here on Hanley and on Coeur, or actually Dalton over here. We were having to go a little further out this way because the road is in such bad shape. We were going to rotomill that and have them do it. One of the advantages to having the contractor work on these roundabouts, roundabouts are great, they serve a great purpose, but for our staff to do the maintenance on them, it's very difficult. Our paver cannot pave the entire width of this roundabout in one pass. We would have to make 2 narrow passes that our paver won't fit into very well. The product's not going to be very good. You bring in one of the big contractors, their paver can do the whole thing in one pass. So they back the truck in, it can go the full width and do it at one time. As soon as they finish, Hanley gets chip sealed. I also want to bring up this time, even though they're doing all this work, there will be some spot patches that city staff will still do, and crack sealing. We will be out there crack sealing a lot of this to prepare as well. So this is going to free up a lot of time for us to move to other locations. Councilmember Miller asked me tonight, she had some concerns, why such a big change order for us? I might need Randy's help with some of this. Again, this is the same project, we just added to the work. We didn't add any road surface. This was all part of the original project. We are not able to split the contract from what I understand, so we need to offer this change order to the contractor and allow them to give us a bid and do it in a timely manner. I don't know if I'm explaining that right, Randy, but if you want to jump in, I know it was a question. So.
It is interesting that the term change order does not appear in any of the statutes. The purchasing statute requires an expenditure to purchase public works construction. So what the scope of that public works construction is really up to council. In this case, the original bid was for the 2023 chip seal project. My understanding is that this is preparation of the same road for the chip seal process or project, and therefore would be considered part of that public works construction project, and therefore a change order would be appropriate.
So before I ask for a decision, just to let you know where the dollars land. The original bid was for $639,000. The change order is $502,125. we also have spent some money for the thermoplastic in the project already, which was just a little bit more than $14,000. So that's still out of the chip and overlay budget, going to allow us $344,000 to use on still other roads, and we have plans, as I'm going to go over next. So at this time, I would just, staff recommends approval of change order number 1 for the 23 chip seal project. I'd take any questions.
Questions, Woody?
I have to ask, when I see change order number 1, I think there's a number 2 coming. Tell me that's not so.
I hope not. We've been very thorough on this. It's pretty upfront in the cost. I don't expect one, but it is construction. We're going to open up a road. You never know what you're going to find. So, I mean, we hope not, but we still have some money in the budget if we get to that. So,
Dan?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, Todd, I really appreciate your explanation, because when I first read this and I'm looking at a $500,000 change order, I'm like, what the hell?
Right.
Because that's a lot. I mean, that's almost half.
Right.
So this is not because they mispriced the asphalt or they underestimated or any of that other stuff we normally get with change orders. It's because they're taking on more work to free up your guys to do more work. So as long as we're out there fixing the streets with this money, I'm really good with this. So thank
Okay.
you.
You're exactly right. I mean, it's the same surface. They're just going to do a bunch of the preparation, free up our time to go do
Perfect.
others. So,
Thank you.
Did you have something else?
I just was going to say, Todd, I appreciate the time talking about it earlier, and Randy too. The big number was sticker shock to me too, and I just want to make sure if we're following the public bid process and we're doing what we need to do. But it sounds like to me that this work was always planned to be part of the project. It's just transferring the work from you doing it to the contractor doing it. And so I was comfortable with us getting the best value and the bang for our buck by using this process as a change order, but it is a big red flag when there's that size of a dollar amount. So I appreciate the explanation too.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move to approve Resolution 23035, approving change order number 1
Second.
to the contract of pole paving for 2023 chip seal project.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion on the motion. The city is putting more money into the streets. One of the bad things about riding a bike around town is you see the streets more up close, and you see all the needs that we have. And I appreciate the council's support for putting more money in the budget for streets, because we've got to take care of those streets before they get beyond the point of repair. Will the clerk take the roll, please?
Evans?
Yes.
Miller?
Aye.
McEvers?
Yes.
Gookin?
Yes.
English?
Yes.
Wood?
Yes.
Motion carries.
So I have a little bit more for you.
Okay.
This is just an update, kind of mapping out our season. I'm excited to share with you some big plans. With a partnership with the Idaho Transportation Department, we also are carrying over some funds for the state user tax that is going to go towards Ramsey Road improvements. We're excited to tackle a very problem area in the entrance to our great city. So some of the things that we've done in the past, just to give you a little history, is we do a lot of skim patches, overlays. This is not an area that we're working on this year, just wanted to use it as an example so you can see what we're covering there in this base asphalt. It's pretty much failed. We're going to put a couple inches over that, and it's going to reflect through that in a couple years. So it's a short-term Band-Aid, if you will. We've done a lot of that through years to spread our dollars as far as we can to make the road smooth, but it's not a long-term fix. This is another location. This is at Ironwood and Northwest Boulevard, an area that we're hoping to work on this year. It gets about 30,000 cars per day on average through that intersection. It matches up with Highway 95 and I-90. So it's a very busy intersection.
Todd, question on that, on the bridge there too. Do we also do the bridge, or is that ITD?
The bridge is actually ITDs. So basically
Okay.
from Appleway, I have an exhibit that will show what's ITDs and what's ours. But yeah, the bridge is ITDs.
Thank you.
So we've done a lot of skim patches here. you can see where it started to fail. So these are corrections that we have done through the years, and they are coming apart. That's, they look like potholes, but it's actually just a layer separating from the surface. You can see here in this slide, it's hard to tell, but there's many areas along this curb line where we've done so many skim patches over it. We're as high as 1.5 inches above the face of the curb with the asphalt road. So what that does is create a belly right here. Now the water sits out on the road, it doesn't drain properly, and it will create this with the cars going over it. This is just another example of that. I think most of us drive this section of road every day. You can all agree that it needs some work. The reason we're wanting to do this project right now, you know, we need to put a 7-year to 10-year Band-Aid on it. With the I-90 project, eventually this section of road is going to look completely different, but it's still up to 10 years out. So we need to do something now. I'd like to share this. This is what we did last year on a section of Ramsey Road. It's a good example of what I'll be asking the contractor to do, so I just would like to share this. That's the roto mill machine, the grinder, that we contracted several times last year to do projects in-house. To do this work, you can see how fast that machine is running. I have to borrow Waters trucks, use all of our trucks, and it takes anywhere from 9 to 10 trucks to keep up with this machine. There's not a lot of stop and go. It just keeps moving and tears up the road. This is what we're going to ask them to do. So they're going to rotomill, and then we're going to ask them to do an inlay. So they're going to fill. We're going to ask them to do anywhere from 1.5 inches to 2 inches to fill it back in. We've done overlays here before. There's a fabric in the asphalt, so we want to stay above that. If they can mill this up and just get the asphalt with that oil, that's a value to us. We will get a credit because they can reuse it in new asphalt. So kind of a fun picture. Councilmember Gookin, to answer your question, the bluish shaded area is ITD's responsibility. That is technically their road. We have created some MOUs at Appleway and Ironwood for signals and things like that, but the road surface technically is still theirs. Through the years, we've done a lot of the fixes here. We have reached out to ITD. They're willing to support. They would like us to create a project, but they will contribute with a check, is basically it. We are proposing for this part in the base bid that we're going to send out hopefully this week to go from Appleway all the way down to Lakewood. So we would rotomill from curb to curb, the full width, and then we would inlay new asphalt to get the shape so water will drain and hopefully get us out to that 10-year mark is our goal. The second part of our bid, we would like to do a bid alternate. We're reaching big. We think we have the dollars to do it. We want to go from Kathleen Avenue all the way through the intersection of Hanley, north and southbound, with a similar process. So we will have them mill it, remove about 2 inches, and then inlay new pavement on Ramsey Road, because that road is having drainage issues. We end up spending a lot of time on potholes and things like that on this section of road. So this would be just a really big fix for us that will free up a lot of time down the road. This would be all contract work because we want to do fixes on other smaller streets with city staff. I always like to just point out some of the safety stuff in these work zones as we put out the bids as the work starts. You know, I ask traffic to please be patient. We have a lot of people that aren't patient in this town. Follow the traffic control directions, signs and flaggers. They have a difficult job on our narrow streets. If a traffic signal is not operational, it is a four-way stop. Please treat it as such. Don't drive through the fresh asphalt. That is a real thing. People love to do that and you can't always fix it. Increase your following distance. Motorcycles, as always, when we do the milling, there's rough edges and bumps. Please be careful. And then, expect several days before striping is to be completed. We will put temporary marks down, but really we need to let the new asphalt sit for about 2 weeks before we actually put the permanent paint down. So, and then this is my expert inspector last year. He was gracious enough to come out there, film us, ask lots of questions. I had to keep him away from the grinder because we didn't have a hard hat for Mr. McEvers, but he'd had a lot of fun out there. I would invite any of you to come out and see this process.
Wear long pants if I do.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
was gonna
there
say.
you go. It's not really,
Maybe we can get him some long pants.
Yeah.
What
with
do you
that,
do-
I would take any
Todd,
questions.
what do you do with the grindings?
Good question. Two things. So this year, we are going to do a small pilot test project with city staff. Some of our alleys, we are going to reshape them and try and put like a 4-inch layer of the asphalt grindings, compact them, and hopefully that will hold up better than the gravel surface. There won't be dust. It'll be asphalt-like, not quite as smooth, but it'll be similar. We also have quite the mountain of them at our shop at 3,800 to use for the alley. So we've kept some of them. The rest of them, we get a credit back to PO or Interstate or whoever's doing the work. The other thing that's neat about these projects when we do it in-house, they want these so bad, they will supply the dump trucks to haul it off. So it frees up the time for us. We can be doing other things. So it's not a huge credit, but between them hauling it and giving us some credit back that we can use for gravel or other things, to me, it's a win-win. On top of that, we're not paying to dispose of the asphalt. So, anyway.
Guess what?
I have to have questions, right? The streets stay open during this?
When you tackle a beast like Northwest Boulevard, Ironwood, yeah, there's going to be delays, but most likely it could be night work for the milling, but most of the time they can shift traffic all the way one direction or something, work in the middle, and then adjust. Obviously, we cannot short our major north-south corridor down. We have to keep it open, so.
So possibly, do they pave at night? I mean, we talked last year, I think they aren't open at night or something.
So they used to. It's not as common now. After COVID, they don't have the staff to run the plants at night or the truck drivers to run during the day and at night. So that staffing's an issue for them as well. So we'll probably have to work with them. The milling, I could see them possibly doing a nighttime. I'm sure the paving, they will ask if they can do it during the day.
It's going to be cool when it's all done, huh?
Yeah.
Good job.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Todd. Monty? Trail extension.
Good evening. So, last year, the Parks Department applied for and received a $250,000 Children Pedestrian Safety Grant from the local Highway Technical Assistance Council, and that was to extend the Prairie Trail, if you guys remember. We went out to bid a few weeks back, and we got 6 bids back. So tonight, I'm asking you guys to accept the agreement with Interstate Concrete and Asphalt for the extension of the Prairie Trail from Hutter to Meyer. I got a short little presentation to show. So with the Prairie Trail, as we know, it's outside of city limits. It was a weird land swap deal, but we got the property. And this grant will help extend the trail from Hutter Road out to Meyer. Wow. And the city of Post Falls is currently working on getting the trail built from 41 to Prairie this year. So the trail, by the end of the summer, or early fall, will extend all the way to 41. And there's already a trail going up 41 to Rathdrum. So it'll connect Post Falls to Rathdrum to Coeur d'Alene, and a big loop all the way around the county. It'll be really nice. So it's a 15-foot wide trail, because the Prairie Trail is already a wide trail to accommodate a lot of traffic. The the project, the bid went out, the money we had included a flashing light that the street department was going to put in for us and striping to cross the Prairie Trail to get to the trail. But Interstate came in at $221,000, and that was lower than we expected. So the Trail Foundation has offered to give us some extra money, and we're going to go ahead and, if we can, we'll get estimates. We'll try to extend the trail from Meyer Road up to Prairie. So if you look back at this crossing here, we end right at Meyer. But this section is not going to be built until there's a grade separator crossing, because we don't want people crossing at a diagonal. So we're going to take them up to Prairie Avenue and cross them at the light. So with this extra money, you could potentially get the trail up to Prairie and then connect to the Post Falls Trail here, and add a second flashing light here on Meyer, because we want to cross them onto the west side of the road. So that's all really exciting that actually happens. It rarely happens that way, that you have enough money to do extra stuff on a project. So we received 6 bids. Interstate came in at $226.10. The next closest bid was $285,000. That was about $60,000 more. And we reviewed the bid and found it to be responsive. So the grant we got from the LTAP was $250,000. The Trail Foundation has pledged to $50,000, bringing the total to $300,000. We anticipate that the 2 crossing lights that we're going to have contracted now and the additional trail will bring us pretty close to that $300,000. So I'm here to ask the council to accept the agreement with Interstate Concrete and Asphalt.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Christie.
Thank you. Monty, you gave this presentation last night to Park and Rec, and of course, we were incredibly impressed. If you would just review, I mean, you sought after this grant, and if you would just review, I think in the last year, how many grants we've received, because your team goes after them, you specifically?
So we just got accepted, or we got notice that we've been approved for the WIF grant, which will replace our mooring docks down at 3rd Street Mooring Docks. And that was, I believe, $300,000 or $400,000. And then this grant was $250,000. We have a grant for fire mitigation on Canfield and Cancourse, as well as one left over from Fernand to do the Veteran Centennial Park. And we are waiting to hear on a major grant for Tubbs Hill to do fire mitigation up there. We got accepted on all those grants. The last one we're waiting to hear on is Tubbs Hill. And if we get that grant, it'll be at $1.2 million in grants this year.
Which is incredible. What we were talking about last night was, these are serious improvements to our community. We wouldn't be able to find that in our budget.
Mm-hmm.
And so the work that you and your team do to go out and find these federal grants or state grants have a huge impact, and especially that trail that's going to connect all of the cities. So Park and Rec was absolutely thrilled with this proposal and very appreciative to you and your work.
Thanks. I made it a little shorter tonight because I knew I was last.
Yeah.
Woody?
Just a quick question. Great job, Bud. The new connection to Prairie, when you get up against Meyer, do you have access to the dirt?
That's what Rob Paulus, the assistant engineer at Post Falls, is working on right now. He's working on easements with that property owner.
Okay, got it. Thanks. Great job, Bud.
Thanks.
With
Anyone
that,
care to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the agreement with Interstate Concrete and Asphalt for the Prairie Trail from Hutter to Meyer Road in the amount of $221,226.10.
Second.
A motion second, discussion on the motion. Seeing none?
Just
Sorry.
want to say, good job.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. I've been to the trail, I've been to the end. It'll be nice to take it
Yes.
the rest of the way.
To connect to something.
I have to
Yeah.
go through a neighborhood right now, so that's kind of cool.
I didn't tell anyone.
It's public streets.
Okay. Will the clerk take the roll, please?
Miller,
Aye.
McEvers.
Yes.
Hoogan.
Yep.
English,
Yes.
Wood,
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor respond with aye.
Aye.
Opposed with nay. Motion carries. We are adjourned. Bang, bang.